Yes, I am.
Bonjour tout le monde. Hello, everyone. Over the weekend, we've seen Ontario, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, and Alberta all report new single-day highs of COVID-19. Just yesterday, PEI and Newfoundland and Labrador left the Atlantic bubble as cases increased on the West Coast. And a few days ago, our government approved a request for assistance to deploy in a long-term care home in the Opaskwayak Cree Nation in Manitoba. As they always do, our brave women and men in uniform are stepping up again to support Canadians and help provinces get the situation under control. The cases we are seeing are extremely concerning, and the federal government will continue to be there for people and small businesses every step of the way. As of yesterday, applications opened for the newly launched Canada Emergency Rent Subsidy. If you own a small business, you could get up to 65% of your business's rent covered, and that goes directly to you, not through your landlord. If your community is in lockdown, we're adding an extra 25% help for commercial rent through the new lockdown support. Combined with the rent subsidy, you could have up to 90% of your rent covered. To help with another big expense for business, payroll, the wage subsidy has also been extended until June Canada of next Emergency Rent Subsidy. These programs are just some of the many measures we've introduced to have the backs of business owners and workers alike through this second wave. Go to canada.ca/coronavirus to find out what supports are there for you. We know that this second wave had the potential to get really serious really fast. And we also knew that we had to be ready to do whatever it takes to get it under control. Because at the end of the day, lives are at stake. I know you get that. I know you're worried about the people around you. Last Tuesday, I got an email from Jackie in Edmonton. Jackie's worried about her husband who works in the school system. She's worried about her grandparents and parents-in-law who are in long-term care homes. She's worried about her kids. Jackie, I hear you. You're right. This is a tough time. And I want you to know that you're not in this alone. Our government's top priority is to keep Canadians safe. That's why every step of the way, we've been supporting the provinces so that they can make the right decisions for you. Our supports for businesses and for people mean that local officials don't have to choose between people's health or the economy. And we've been supporting with supplies as well. As of last week, we've sent over 300,000 rapid tests to Alberta and 444,000 face masks. The federal government has also provided $1.3 billion to the province for everything from PPE to contact tracers through the Safe Restart Agreement, with another $260 million for schools in Alberta through the Safe Return to Class Fund. And that's just some of the support we've made available for people and businesses in Alberta, just like for everyone across the country. No matter where you live, we will continue to be there for you through this second wave and beyond. Notre principale priorité est encore d'assurer la sécurité des Canadiens, que ce soit d'acheter plus d'équipements de protection individuelle, d'augmenter le dépistage ou d'investir dans la recherche. C'est là-dessus qu'on travaille. Depuis la semaine dernière, on a fourni plus de 2,9 millions de paires de gants de nitrile aux provinces et aux territoires, et d'autres s'en viennent. On leur a aussi envoyé 4,6 millions de tests de dépistage rapide et des millions d'autres sont à venir. Les gens ont besoin de cette aide essentielle sur le terrain. On va continuer de faire notre part et de leur fournir le matériel dont ils ont besoin au cours des semaines et des mois à venir. C'est essentiel d'acheter et de distribuer de l'équipement de protection et des tests de dépistage rapide, mais c'est aussi important de trouver un vaccin sûr et efficace si on veut vaincre la COVID-19. Pas plus tard qu'hier, on a eu des nouvelles prometteuses concernant le candidat vaccin d'AstraZeneca et de l'Université d'Oxford. Le Canada a déjà négocié une entente pour recevoir jusqu'à 20 millions de doses. Ce vaccin fait partie de toute notre gamme de vaccins potentiels pour les Canadiens. Et quand on aura un vaccin, le bon matériel pour l'administrer sera essentiel. Jusqu'à maintenant, on a reçu plus de 24 millions de seringues et d'aiguilles et d'autres livraisons vont arriver toutes les semaines. Ça fait partie de la stratégie qu'on a mise en place pour être prêt quand le vaccin sera prêt. On sait que tout le monde ne sera pas vacciné en même temps. On va devoir établir des priorités. Mais tout ce qu'on fait présentement va nous aider à faire vacciner les Canadiens aussi vite que possible. To keep Canadians safe, we need access to as many potential vaccines and treatments as possible. Today, I can announce that we've signed a deal to secure up to 26,000 doses of a therapeutic drug from Eli Lilly, with options for thousands more. This treatment was developed in partnership with Vancouver's AbCellera Biologics and is part of our support for researchers right here at home who are working around the clock to find a treatment for COVID-19. So to the scientists and researchers across the country, thank you for everything you do. Just like always, your dedication and expertise is making Canadians healthier and safer, and is building a better tomorrow. Canada is lucky to have thousands of world-class scientists and researchers. As a government, we will continue to be there every step of the way to support you in the work you do. Aujourd'hui, je vous annonce qu'on a conclu une entente pour réserver jusqu'à 26 000 doses d'un produit thérapeutique d'Eli Lilly, avec la possibilité d'en recevoir des milliers de plus. Ce traitement a été mis au point en partenariat avec l'entreprise AbCellera Biologics de Vancouver, notamment grâce au soutien qu'on a offert à des chercheurs qui travaillent fort pour trouver un traitement ici même au pays. On va continuer de soutenir nos scientifiques et nos chercheurs qui ne reculent devant rien pour trouver un traitement sûr et efficace contre ce virus. Et je veux les remercier pour tout ce qu'ils font, pour leur pays et pour le monde. The news about promising vaccine candidates that we've heard in the past few days is reason to be hopeful. Our government has worked hard to secure tens of millions of doses, so we're prepared once a safe, effective vaccine is ready for Canadians. But we cannot be complacent now. Remember, if you catch COVID-19 this week, a vaccine in the coming months won't help you. We've seen restrictions increase across the country over the past few days, and Canadians are taking extra care to stay home. But I want to remind you, nothing that we do today will bring the numbers down this week. This week's numbers were already determined by behaviors last week and the week before. What we can affect today is what our country looks like a week, 2 weeks from now. So continue doing your part to keep yourself, your family, and your loved ones safe. Stay at home, wear a mask, avoid social gatherings, especially indoors, and don't forget to download the COVID-19 app. It's easy, free, and quick, and it's incredibly powerful. Just ask Sasha from Toronto. Sasha downloaded the app, and 2 weeks ago, it notified him that he'd been exposed to someone who tested positive for COVID-19. Sasha always wears his mask, sanitizes everything, and felt just fine. But he did the right thing and went in to get tested. Well, the test came back positive. He'd been asymptomatic the whole time. If Sasha hadn't had COVID alert, he would never have known. But because of the app, he found out and then was able to self-isolate and keep other people safe. He and his family are almost done their self-isolation, and they've said that they want everyone to know about their story so that as many people as possible use the COVID Alert app. To Sasha and his wife, Kate, thank you for doing the right thing in getting the app, getting tested, and then staying home. And thank you for sharing your story to encourage even more people to make the smart, responsible choice that you did. The more people download this app, the stronger it becomes. So join the over 5.4 million Canadians who, like Sasha, have downloaded the COVID Alert app. Plus les gens téléchargent cette application, plus elle est efficace. Alors, faites comme les 5,4 millions de Canadiens qui ont téléchargé l'application Alerte COVID. Hier, j'ai eu l'occasion de discuter avec des élèves et des enseignants de l'École catholique Saint-Martha de Kingston, en Ontario, avec notre député local, Mark Gerritsen. Alors, j'aimerais conclure aujourd'hui en m'adressant directement aux enseignants et au personnel de soutien qui nous aident à éduquer nos enfants pendant cette épreuve. Je sais que cette année a été difficile. Je sais que vous allez continuer de faire tout ce que vous pouvez pour aider nos enfants, pour élever nos enfants, pour instruire nos enfants. Mais c'est vraiment pas facile. Vous vous mettez à risque, mais vous allez au-delà de tout pour appuyer nos enfants et leurs parents. Merci. Je sais le genre d'engagement que ça prend pour être prof. Je sais ce que vous faites comme enseignant. Et je peux vous assurer que tous les Canadiens vous en sont profondément reconnaissants. Continuez votre excellent travail. Continuez d'être là pour nous, comme nous allons être pour vous. Merci. Je serai maintenant heureux de prendre vos questions.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll start on the phone with questions. One question, one follow-up. Operator.
Merci. Première question, Raymond Filion, TVA. À vous.
Merci. Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre. Au sujet de la vaccination, votre gouvernement a parlé du premier trimestre de 2021, mais dans la mesure où d'autres pays comme les États-Unis parlent du début possible de la vaccination dès la mi-décembre, est-ce que vous pouvez être plus précis quant au moment où la vaccination va commencer chez nous? Et qu'est-ce que vous dites aux Canadiens qui risquent de voir des gens être vaccinés aux États-Unis avant ici?
Comme les gens savent peut-être, on n'a pas de capacité de production de masse de vaccins au Canada. On en avait il y a plusieurs décennies, mais depuis ces années-là, on n'a plus notre capacité domestique. D'autres pays qui en ont, comme les États-Unis, la Grande-Bretagne, l'Allemagne et d'autres, évidemment, vont prioriser l'accès à leurs vaccins pour leurs citoyens d'abord, mais c'est pour ça que notre gouvernement a fait deux choses. D'abord, on est en train d'investir pour redévelopper une industrie pharmaceutique au Canada pour qu'on puisse produire des vaccins dans les années à venir et surtout si jamais il y a une autre pandémie comme ça, nous n'allons pas être mal pris comme on l'est maintenant. Et deuxièmement, c'est pour ça qu'on a travaillé si fort pour s'assurer que les Canadiens et le Canada allaient avoir accès à un vaccin. Donc, on a signé plus d'ententes avec plus de vaccins et pour plus de millions de doses que quasiment n'importe quel autre pays. On va être là pour assurer que les Canadiens reçoivent des vaccins. On est en train de travailler avec ces compagnies, avec les partenaires pour assurer qu'on en reçoive le plus rapidement possible parce qu'on sait qu'on ne passe pas à travers cette pandémie sans avoir des vaccins et on a le plan pour le livrer. I think one of the things to remember is Canada no longer has any domestic production capacity for vaccines. We used to have it decades ago, but we no longer have it. Countries like the United States, Germany, and the UK do have domestic pharmaceutical facilities, which is why they're obviously going to prioritize helping their citizens first. So Canada did two things over the past months. First of all, we've begun to invest once again in ensuring that Canada will have domestic vaccine production capacity because we never want to be caught short again without the ability to support Canadians directly. And that will be in place in the coming years. If ever there is another pandemic, we will not be caught on the wrong foot again. But secondly, that's why recognizing the challenges we had around getting vaccines from other countries to Canada, the Canadian government signed a record number of agreements with vaccine producers, potential vaccine producers around the world. We have reached out and have actually one of the very best vaccine portfolios of any country around the world, with far more doses for Canadians potentially than we actually have Canadian population. That's because we don't know which vaccines are going to be most effective, which ones are going to arrive early, but we have done everything we can to ensure that Canadians get these vaccines as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible. But of course, in all cases, we are in for, as a world, a number more months where we have to do everything to keep our cases down before vaccines get here so that we are able to get through this as best as possible, which is why people need to continue to stay safe and limit the spread of COVID-19.
Suivi, Ray?
Oui, au sujet de la langue française, Québec doit annoncer aujourd'hui son intention d'assujettir les entreprises sous charte fédérale à la loi 101. Le Bloc a aussi présenté ce matin un projet de loi en ce sens. Vous avez dit la semaine dernière appuyer la loi 101 dans ce qu'elle fait pour le Québec. Alors, est-ce que vous allez permettre que la loi 101 s'applique aux entreprises fédérales?
Nous allons regarder ce que ça va prendre pour protéger le fait français au Québec et partout au Canada. Nous avons toujours été, en tant que gouvernement, axés sur la protection du français, affixés sur la protection des minorités de langue officielle à travers le pays. Et nous allons regarder les propositions de Québec. Je pense que c'est important de souligner à quel point nous sommes là pour travailler fort pour protéger le français. C'est ce qu'on a souligné dans le discours du trône et on va regarder les différentes propositions et prendre nos décisions en conséquence.
Merci. Prochaine question. Operator?
Thank you. Merci. Next question, Ryan Tumulty, National Post. Line open.
Yeah, sir. Also on the vaccine front, there's been some confusion about exactly when your government will be ready to distribute vaccines. I know you can't say for sure when you'll actually have them, but when will the government be ready to distribute those vaccines to provinces and territories? And will the military be involved in that distribution?
I think everyone is rightly focused on vaccines because we know that without a vaccine, we don't get through this pandemic. And we are looking forward to being able to vaccinate Canadians in the coming months. We know that in order to know exactly which vaccines are going to be effective, we're going to have to watch the trials carefully. We're going to have to see the approvals process. We're going to have to set up logistical streams to be able to deliver those vaccines to Canadians. And those are all things that we're working on right now. But one of the reasons why we signed a range of agreements for vaccines with many different companies is because we know that not all vaccines are going to be equally effective. Some may face challenges around production and delivery, and we wanted to make sure that we were covering all the bases to ensure that Canadians would get them as quickly as possible and have them be as effective as possible. So we are working with a number of partners, including the Canadian military, to ensure that as soon as vaccines arrive and are deemed safe, they will be distributed to Canadians. We're making sure that we have the plan in place to move as quickly as possible, but it is premature to start, crossing out, circling dates on a calendar or saying that this vaccine is going to arrive in this amount on this day in this community, because there's still a lot of work to do between now and then. But we're on it, just like we've been on every element of protecting Canadians in this pandemic. Je pense que je comprends pourquoi les gens ont tellement hâte à en savoir plus sur les vaccins. C'était comme dans les débuts de cette pandémie, tout le monde voulait savoir quand est-ce qu'on allait pouvoir lever les restrictions dans la première vague. Les gens veulent savoir quand est-ce que ces vaccins vont arriver, quand est-ce qu'on va pouvoir revenir à la normale. La réalité, c'est qu'il y a énormément de différents vaccins potentiels, mais on ne sait pas c'est lequel qui va être le plus efficace, c'est lesquels qui vont arriver en premier, quand est-ce qu'on va pouvoir les livrer directement aux Canadiens. C'est pour ça qu'on est en train de mettre en place un plan robuste pour mobiliser nos ressources pour pouvoir livrer des vaccins aux bonnes personnes dès qu'ils arriveront au Canada et seront jugés sécuritaires pour les Canadiens. Donc, nous avons un plan, nous sommes en train de livrer sur ce plan, mais ça va être encore du travail avant que les vaccins arrivent.
Follow-up, Brian?
Yeah, sir, I understand what you're saying about not being able to circle dates on a calendar because we don't know exactly when the vaccines are going to arrive or how effective they're going to be. But doesn't it make sense to have a specific date or a specific timeline in place when you'll have your rollout plan ready to go? Whether or not the vaccine is here yet, but you have the logistics ready to go to handle the vaccine. Say it should arrive earlier than we're expecting.
We are working very closely with the provinces, with partners, including the Canadian military, to establish that logistical mobilization plan, and we will have more to share as we get it up and running.
Thank you. And we'll take one more call on the line. Operator.
Thank you. Merci. Prochaine question, l'inaudible, la presse canadienne. À vous.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau. Moi aussi, je veux revenir sur les vaccins parce que j'ai pas tout à fait compris votre explication à mon collègue de TVA, à Raymond. Vous dites c'est normal que les pays qui peuvent produire les vaccins fassent passer leur population en premier. Alors, est-ce qu'on comprend que les contrats que vous avez passés pour acheter des millions de doses, ça dit qu'on va recevoir ces millions de doses seulement après que tous les Américains ou tous les Allemands, ou enfin, dépendant de la compagnie de vaccins qui nous l'a vendu, auront été servis?
Non, absolument pas. On va commencer à recevoir des doses en début d'année prochaine, dans les premiers mois de l'année prochaine. Mais effectivement, les toutes premières doses, on peut comprendre qu'une compagnie qui produit des vaccins aux États-Unis va commencer à distribuer aux États-Unis avant qu'ils vont distribuer à l'international. Mais on n'attend pas pour que tout le monde aux États-Unis soit vacciné avant de commencer à vacciner les Canadiens. On va recevoir des vaccins dans les prochains mois, même pendant qu'ils continuent d'en livrer aux États-Unis et partout dans le monde. I think it's important to highlight that yes, the very first vaccines that roll off an assembly line in a given country are likely to be given to citizens of that particular country. But shortly afterwards, they will start honoring and delivering on the contracts that they signed with other countries, including with Canada. We've secured millions of doses of the vaccines, of the various vaccine candidates around the world, and we're expecting to start receiving those doses in the first few months of 2021.
Une suivi, Nina?
Merci. Et oui, et mon autre question, c'est, on vous a demandé vendredi si vous étiez choqué, ou en tout cas pas content de voir que M. Legault permettait des rassemblements du 24 au 27 décembre. Vous avez dit non, 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 c'est bien beau, il fait bien ce qu'il veut. Puis là, la santé publique fédérale, Mme Tam, nous sort un communiqué ce matin disant les rassemblements pendant les fêtes seulement avec les gens de votre ménage. Pouvez-vous m'expliquer la contradiction entre ce que vous disiez vendredi et ce que les autorités fédérales disent aujourd'hui?
Ce qu'on est toujours en train de dire, c'est d'écouter les consignes de santé locale. Ça, c'est toujours la priorité. Évidemment, les consignes qui vont être là dans la bulle Atlantique ou à l'île du Prince-Édouard vont être différentes des consignes qu'on donnera à Montréal, différentes des consignes qu'on pourrait donner en Alberta ou en Colombie-Britannique. Mais en même temps, on veut essayer de guider les gens le plus possible dans les meilleures recommandations qu'on peut offrir. Et c'est pour ça que la Dr Tam est en train d'établir des principes qui ne devrait pas surprendre personne, que le plus possible, restez chez vous, le plus possible, évitez les rassemblements ou les contacts avec les gens. Évidemment, différentes juridictions vont prendre différentes décisions précises, mais les recommandations vont toujours être pour partout de faire attention dans les prochains mois parce que c'est là qu'on doit éliminer ou réduire massivement cette éclosion de la COVID-19.
Hi, Prime Minister. It's Annie Bergeron-Oliver from CTV National News. I'm also going to go back on vaccines. I'm just wondering what guarantees do you have from the pharmaceutical companies as well as from our allies that the delivery of vaccines to Canada will not be significantly delayed because of mass vaccination programs in other countries who've approved these vaccines first? And also, will Canada start receiving shipments before the vaccines themselves are approved in Canada so that they can get out to Canadians?
We have signed strong contracts with various vaccine companies, and we are working closely with allies on ensuring that there is a free flow of delivery of contracts. We know that this is a preoccupation that many people have, which is why it was something that we all talked about on this weekend's G20 virtual summit. It's really important to ensure that everyone gets access to vaccines around the world, because no one place gets through COVID-19 until all places are done with COVID-19. In regards to the question on vaccines arriving, we are working as quickly as possible with the data that vaccine companies are providing us to ensure that approval of these vaccines happens rapidly, so that there is no delay between them arriving and being distributed to Canadians. But we will not cut any corners when it comes to protecting Canadians' safety. We're looking very carefully at what our allies are doing in terms of approval of various vaccines, but at the same time, we know how important it is that as many people as possible get these vaccines, which is why we need to guarantee to Canadians that they will be safe for them, so as many people as possible will get the vaccines. Okay. Je pense que nous comprenons tous que c'est important de pouvoir avoir des vaccins partout dans le monde, parce qu'il n'y a aucune place qui peut passer à travers la COVID-19 sans que tout le monde passe à travers la COVID-19. C'est pour ça qu'on est en train d'assurer que ces contrats vont être respectés. On travaille avec nos alliés à ce niveau-là, et on a confiance qu'il n'y aura pas d'interruption à ce niveau-là. En même temps, c'est très important d'assurer que ces vaccins soient approuvés pour l'utilisation dès qu'ils arrivent au Canada pour pouvoir être distribués. C'est pour ça qu'on travaille en avance de leur livraison pour s'assurer de leur sécurité. Santé Canada est en train d'analyser toutes les données fournies par les compagnies pour prendre leurs décisions. On est aussi en train de regarder ce que font nos alliés par rapport à ça. Mais je veux rassurer les Canadiens que si un vaccin commence à être distribué au Canada, ça va être parce qu'on a jugé que c'est sécuritaire pour les Canadiens. On a besoin que les gens soient confiants qu'ils sont en sécurité quand ils prennent ce vaccin, et c'est exactement le travail qu'on est en train de faire pour s'assurer que le plus de gens possible au Canada prennent ce vaccin.
Hello, Prime Minister. Mike Blanchfield, Canadian Press. You've criticized the opposition for suggesting that you're somehow using this pandemic as cover for major changes to Canadian society, the economy. And you've also talked about the importance of building back better. Meanwhile, we're seeing big changes, acceleration in how we're living, moves towards things like online shopping, while local merchants say they're suffering. So how do you balance supporting people through COVID-19 with what you say is this need to come out with a country that's going to be different than it was before?
I think we're learning lessons through this pandemic about how important it is to be there for each other, to support each other. I think we're learning lessons about how important it is to support a digital transformation of our economy, while at the same time we're making sure that small businesses benefit from it. I think we're learning through this pandemic. We're always falling through the cracks, need more supports than we've been able to give them up until now. These are things that are obvious during this pandemic that I think Canadians expect the government to respond to. So, like I said, we will be there every step of the way to do whatever is necessary to support Canadians through this pandemic. And we will continue to work with Canadians to ensure that when the economy comes roaring back at the end of this pandemic, it does so in a way that benefits everyone.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Marc-Andre Cassette with Global News. The United States, Germany, and the United Kingdom have all said that they could start vaccinating their populations as early as next month. Spain plans to have more than 10 million of its citizens vaccinated by March. You've talked about distributing the vaccine to high priority Canadians in the first 3 months of next year, but compared to these other countries, how much longer will average Canadians have to wait to be vaccinated?
We have secured tens of millions of doses of many different types of vaccines exactly to ensure that we're able to vaccinate as many Canadians as possible, as quickly as possible. We recognize the disadvantage that Canada has of not having a domestic pharmaceutical industry able to mass produce vaccines. But that's why we went above and beyond in securing access to more doses per capita than just about any other country of the potential vaccines out there.
Hi, Prime Minister. Tom Perry with CBC. You know, we saw in the first wave that it was the Wild West when it came to Canada getting PPE, other countries as well. And I'm wondering if this time you're talking about us securing these vaccines, but have you got assurances from our allies, from the pharmaceutical companies, that there's not going to be, say, export controls on these vaccines once they're produced that's going to get in the way of Canadians getting these vaccines?
We obviously learned a lot and had certain challenges on delivering PPE in the spring because it was, as you say, a real challenge and lots of global competition, which was why at the same time as we managed to deliver massive amounts of PPE to Canada, we developed domestic industries at the same time. So we have made in Canada solutions. At the same time, we worked with our partners to ensure that when we saw challenges around delivery of 3M products, for example, we worked closely with the United States to emphasize the integration of our supply lines that flow back and forth across the border and ensured that essential supplies continue to be delivered. As a world, we are very aware and discussing the challenges around the necessity for free flow of goods across the borders, particularly medical supplies and vaccines. It was a topic of discussion this weekend at the G20, and we've all committed and understood that no one place gets through this pandemic until all of us get through this pandemic. And I'm confident that we're going to be able to access the necessary vaccines for Canadians across international borders.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau. Thomas Laberge de Radio-Canada. Concernant Huawei au Canada, donc nos alliés du Five Eyes ont déjà pris des décisions sur le sujet. Les 3 grandes compagnies de télécom au Canada ont également pris une décision. On sait que votre gouvernement réfléchit à cette question depuis environ 1 an, mais qu'est-ce qui vous décision au sujet de Huawei au Canada?
C'est nos agences de sécurité qui évaluent la situation, qui font des analyses, qui regardent attentivement pour faire la bonne recommandation au gouvernement. On continue de travailler avec eux et on va écouter leurs recommandations quand ils s'avanceront. As we know, our intelligence communities and services are looking carefully at the question around 5G and Huawei. As they firm up their recommendations and make them to the government, we will move forward.
Est-ce que vous avez peur de sévir par rapport à Huawei pour avoir des impacts sur, par exemple, les 2 Michael?
Nous sommes toujours préoccupés par la situation des 2 Michael détenus de façon arbitraire. Continuer de faire tout ce qui est nécessaire pour les ramener au Canada et pour repousser contre la diplomatie coercitive de la Chine. We continue to remain concerned about the 2 Canadians arbitrarily detained in China. We will continue to do everything necessary to bring them home and continue to push back against China's coercive. Merci tout le monde. Bonne journée.
Well, there you have it. More total lockdown stuff. Wow. All right, so I don't know what to tell you, man. Strange that we don't have a vaccine industry in Canada. It makes sense. Just surprised.
This reality check from the Prime Minister.
Sorry, CTV will go off now and parrot Trudeau's speech today. Prime Minister and nice job. And without a vaccine, he says, we don't get through this pandemic. Wrong. Just see, I'm sorry about the kind of clickbaity, headline I put out there, because that is taking some editorial liberties. We're saying that Trudeau's going to come out and lie and sell fear. Well, the last press conference he did, that's all he did was sell fear and lie and lie and lie. And here's another lie. Without a vaccine, we don't get through the pandemic.
Lunge.
Not true. We'll get through the pandemic. We'll get through just fine, actually. Pandemic. Is it even a pandemic anymore? What's the definition of a pandemic? An epidemic that goes worldwide and continues to kill people, I guess. I don't know that we're in pandemic territory now, but maybe. Maybe with the new spikes, but when it was down below, I don't know, 100 cases a day in Canada, it's hardly a pandemic. And the stats I've been looking have been pretty clear that we've got double the infections with a quarter of the deaths. Quarter to half. I mean, these are rough numbers. I can show them to you, actually. I use worldmeters.info. I see a lot of other, I don't know, media types using their numbers, so they can't be all that bad. Some pretty big accounts using their numbers as well. Let's just see what it says today. Coronavirus updates. Worldmeters.info/coronavirus. You can go there with me if you like. Closed cases is where I go to. Oh, I gotta pick the country first. I'm using Canada because that's where I'm at. So here we go to Canada, and then we go down to closed cases, and then show graph, and then one of the first graphs is total cases, but I want daily new cases. So here we are. If you've seen my broadcast before, you know this information. This is the first wave. This is the first lockdown. Okay, so even if we round it up to 2,000 cases, which is generous, and then if we round it slightly down here, we'll just call it 4,000 cases. So we are double the infections on a daily basis. Down here, total deaths, and then daily deaths. You see that the deaths in the original wave, I guess we could call it 100 here. If you're going to take the fat part, we had almost a spike up to 200. We had some pretty flatlining here. We could even call it 150. If you call it 150, we're still back to 75 over here. So again, I'm no rocket socket surgeon, but it's easy to see here in Canada, your daily deaths are double, and your daily deaths, or your daily infections are double. Your daily deaths are half. When I was looking back here, it was more like a quarter, because I think we're around 50. Oh, I'm sorry. You're not seeing this very well. I got it on super zoom here. Let me just get this out. My bad. See, I'm not looking at what I'm doing here. Oh. Anyways, you get the idea. You can probably see most of the graph. I'm just going to reorder it. All right, here we go. This is a little bit clearer. So this is what I was showing you. Daily deaths, now. And daily infections, then, now. So by my limited understanding, I see double the infections and half the deaths. Roughly. I mean, I'm not bang on. I'm not really breaking it down. Sorry, Paul. Paul, I was thinking about you today. I don't know why you popped into my head. Strange. Sorry, I had it super zoomed. So here you can see it better. New daily cases. This was the first wave. This is now. New daily deaths. The first wave. And now we're getting better. We're understanding it better. We're taking better precautions, hopefully with the elderly. I mean, that's who it's really affecting. Watching Crowder today, I didn't get to watch the end of it because I had to jump on here to broadcast Prime Minister Cuck. He was just talking about like the percentages, the chances of you dying under 20 years old, COVID, are so small they're almost immeasurable. Immeasurable? Unmeasurable? Either way, your chances of the average age of death in this is still 80 years old. Well, except after the riots, the average age of infection dropped to 34. Still no one at 34 is dying of COVID. So here we're locked down, restricted. The government's trying to tell you who you can see, where you can go, what you can buy, what businesses can run. And that without a vaccine, we don't get through this pandemic. He also went on to say that we've done everything to make sure that Canadians will get a vaccine. Well, how do we know it's going to be effective? What country are we buying it from? We don't have a domestic production of vaccine ability. Trudeau did commit to doing that because he said we don't want to be caught off guard again. Yeah, you think? We're buying PPE from China that was defective. How do we know that the vaccine that the government picks is going to be effective when they can't even pick the proper strain of influenza to put in the right flu shot? And get this, for the first time, the vaccine will not contain the disease. And all this talk about RNA and, oh man, I just don't have the mental capacity to do the deep dive on the vaccine. I just know I'm not taking it. I don't take the flu shot. I've never had the flu, not that I can remember. I've never had the flu shot. I don't want a version of the flu by getting the shot, and I don't think that they know. It's like Russian roulette. All they do is spin the barrel and hope that the strain that they put in the, well, I guess there's multiple strains in the vaccine, isn't there? But the chances of them putting the right strain in the vaccine so that you don't get it are almost zero. They're not guessing correctly what flu what version of influenza is going around. How many different strains of influenza are there? Thousands? I don't know. But there's lots. There's many. And they have to get that current vaccine, that current influenza strain that's circulating this season into the vaccine, or it doesn't work. And for the first time, I don't know what the RNA are and whatever these vaccines are, but for the first time I hear that the vaccine actually doesn't carry the disease in it. Either way, I'm not taking your vaccine. There's no way. You can't make me. Well, maybe you can. Maybe you can deny me a driver's license. Maybe you can deny me voting privileges and health care by saying, yeah, take the shot or you don't get any of that shit. And you know what? Then it'll just be outright mutiny. What is it? When everyone rebels? Rebellion? What? How do we know the vaccine's going to be effective? We don't. That's why we're not taking it. Yeah, I get that maybe you want to give it to the elderly, to the immune compromised. I wouldn't even recommend. Seriously, why? The chances of you getting this thing are so small, it's unbelievable. But the media will only just focus on infections instead of deaths, because infections are sexier. Look at them. Well, here's the daily deaths right here. And if you've got a dog or a pet that has skin problems or dryness of hair or arthritis or get sick often or inflammation of any type, you should be giving them cold pressed hemp oil. I'm not talking about THC or CBD. No, I'm talking about EFAs, essential fatty acids, what basically has been machined out of your food for decades. Cold pressed hemp oil. It's your best source of EFAs. Everyone's talking about fish oil. I don't recommend it unless you like mercury. And it's animal based. If you're a vegan, you should be on hemp oil. Cold pressed hemp oil. There's no THC. There's no CBD in it. And as far as I'm concerned, you getting your exercise, like maybe a daily walk even, and taking care of your EFA levels, making sure that your nutrition is up to speed and that your immune system is strong, you've got a 99.95% chance of beating this thing if you get it. And I bet you, if you're under 50 years old, the chances of you even knowing that you have it when you contract it are based, I bet you 80% of the people that get it under 50 years old don't even know they have it. It's just like, what's the other one? The mosquito-borne illness. West Nile? Yeah, 80% of the people that contract West Nile don't know they had it because they're asymptomatic or there's no symptoms. And the data's still out. What is the deal with asymptomatic cases? If okay, here's the idea. 10 times the people that have been confirmed to have COVID actually have it and are asymptomatic. Are they out there spreading it? I guess there's two schools of thought on it. That yes, the asymptomatic are spreading it, or no, the asymptomatic are not spreading it. First, look at kids. Are kids guilty of spreading it around? They don't get it. They might get it, but they don't have symptoms. There's no cases of kids going down to COVID. You know what's more deadly for kids? The flu. Far more deadly than COVID. And that's why we should keep the schools open. Kids aren't spreading this stuff around. So make sure your immune system's tight, strong, and see, not just a strong immune system, but what you want is a immune response system that's quick. So you can have a strong immune system. Usually they go hand in hand, but that's why I tell you to get on your hemp oil, because it helps your immune response system. Here's the deal. When you get a cold or you get a flu or you get an invading virus that jumps into your system, the speed of which your immune system reacts is more important than how strong it is. Well, maybe they go hand in hand, but it's just as important. Let's put it that way. Your immune response system is as important as the strength of your immune system. And if you're compromised, then maybe you want to take the shot. And I wouldn't recommend it. Who knows what's in that shot? I am not taking the shot. And if you start coming to my house saying, we need to come in and check to see that you don't have 5 people that are not from your house. No, you're not getting in my house. And if you come through the door, you're not going to like what you find on the other side. Warrant or no entry. You're not coming to my house just to check to see that I'm in line with your stupid lockdown strategies. Where are you, Paul? Up north? Where are you at, man? I thought you were down in the region. Good to hear from you, man. I don't know why I was thinking about you today. It's not the first time. You've been popping in my mind lately. Usually I bust off a call or a communication after that happens. So you're probably a few days from like a phone call or a PM from me going, hey, Paul, that's the 5th time I thought about you. I thought I'd reach out and say what's up. I don't always watch the comments when I'm broadcasting, and sorry, just jumping on after Prime Minister Cuck over here comes out to sell fear and lies. And yeah, I did kind of take liberties with the creative control of the title of these. And sorry, Twitter, I don't know what happened, but Twitch and Twitter did not pick the feed up. So we're on Facebook. We're on we are on Twitch. My bad. Facebook, Twitch, Twitter's down. DLive is up. So Twitter, what else do we miss? DLive is up. Twitch is up. Oh, Periscope's up now. Okay, I don't know how long it took, but Twitter was not up. So we're live on all the platforms now. DLive, Twitch, Periscope, Facebook, and YouTube on the channel called TrueTube. Broadcasting from the Niagara region on the south shore of pristine Lake Ontario. It's Jim Fannin. Just jumping on after. Oh man, this dude makes me rage. Is she live now? Dr. Tran, is that her name? Yeah, it is live. Wonder what she.
And over the past week, labs across Canada have tested an average of over 75,500 people daily, with 7.6% testing positive. Yesterday, 5,713 cases were reported nationally. In addition, there were over 1,300 new cases reported for Saturday and Sunday. This brings the average daily case count to over 5,050 cases for the past week. Increase over the past 7.
Are you scared? Live in fear, buy stuff, and go bankrupt because you can't run your business. That's basically what they're selling to you. Dr. Tran, she's the health official. And Tam, sorry. Yeah, Dr. Tam, not Tran. Well, you can see why I get confused. Oh, goodness gracious. Anyways, so head on down to the grocery store, get yourself some hemp oil. It'll work. And like I said, if you've got an ailing pet, give it to them. They'll kind of turn their nose up at the first time they go, but they'll lick it off the plate. Basically, they'll touch it once, they'll walk away from it. If you get them back to it again, they get a second taste of it, they'll love it up. And man, my dog used to run for the fridge if I said hemp oil. She goes straight for the fridge. You got to keep it in the fridge. You can keep it in the freezer if you want. It doesn't solidify. That's the best thing you do. Shoot a couple tablespoons of cold pressed hemp oil. Again, if you want it in bulk, I used to sell this. Nature's Hemp used to sell it in $25 bottles, like you buy in the store, half liters. But now, well, I'm not doing Nature's Hemp all that much anymore. I still got my connection with the farmer though. So if you want a gallon of cold pressed, all natural, organic hemp oil, it's $100 basically delivered. I'll bring it to you. That's shipped to me. And I'm asking everyone to come together. We're all in this together. And just know that your government will be here for you. Exactly what does being here for you look like other than welfare payments, Prime Minister Cuck? What, asking your neighbors to rat on each other? Yeah, that sounds like what we're here for each other for. You're setting up a tip line for people that are not obeying your lockdown restrictions. That doesn't sound like being there for one another. You know who's not going to be there for you when you rat your neighbor out? Your neighbor. You know who's not going to be there for a cup of sugar when you run out after you rat your neighbor out? Your neighbor. So how about you just give your neighbor a break and stop ratting? But we'll be here for you. We are the federal government. You know what the federal government's here for? You to support your local, provincial, regional, municipal lockdown measures. So when Dr. Mustafa Hirji in Niagara says, you know what? You can't dine in a restaurant in public with more than 4 people, and guess what? They all have to live with you? Guess who's supporting that? I'm just getting a text from my friend that she's slowly red-pilling her mother. I'm going to do a special on... Well, good, she's open. I'm going to do a show on the elevator pitch red pill. It's been 5 years. It took me 5 years to get to the point where I'm comfortable in my own skin and being able to see lies from truth in media, especially. 5 years. It was painful. It's still kind of painful because I still kind of lean left socially. But if you're going to try and tell me that I can't say a certain thing, or that I have to say a certain thing, or that I can't have my guns anymore, I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. He's got an AR, 16, I think. I like the 15, actually. And with the federal controls in Canada now, they're saying they're going to buy back your guns. Well, guess what he's not doing? Turning his guns in. And if you try to collect his guns, guess what you have to deal with when you come to his place? An AR-16 or 15, whatever he's got. If you're my red pilling was basically on free speech, on more gun laws don't lead to safer communities, on boys cannot become girls and vice versa, on mandatory made-up gender pronouns, mandatory, what do they call it? Speech. And I don't think you should be able to kill a baby in my body, my choice, in your body, your choice, after 6 months, period. I'd just settle for that. Can we outlaw no more abortions after 6 months? For any reason, ever. I know that makes me radical. I think I'm just a moderate center right now. And when before I was far left. And I'm so much happier now. But I'm a lot more frustrated. So while Prime Minister Cuck continues to back these tyrannical dictators like Dr. Mustafa Hirji, I refer to him as Dr. Herpes because, I don't know. He looks like an Arab Ken doll. That I finally got it. Yeah, he looks like Barbie and Ken, but his version is like, Arab. I don't know how else to put it. Here's the new cases. Here's the new deaths. Do you see something here that the layman can see? Anyway. Trudeau also came out the other day and he was talking about the vulnerable in society and how they're a little bit more susceptible to COVID. And then he went on to talk about women. Women are not vulnerable against COVID, you dick. And he also told us that you need to listen to your governments. You know what governments don't know? They don't know what's best for me, okay? So no, I don't need to listen to my government. In fact, mostly what I do is question what my government says and does because they're not doing what's best for me. Who's this fucking guy? What's up with the camera? Who's this? This is live on CTV, isn't it? Why don't...
Madame, c'est à vous.
Oh, there's
Mr.
no...
Hernan?
Minister Hernan, you have the floor.
That's called dead air for a long time. Normally I would say it's caused by me, but I think they've got audio issues.
Good afternoon. I would like to begin by thanking all of you
We're limiting in-person contacts and following public health advice.
I'm sorry, I
We
can't
know
do
how
it to you.
important
This
it
is
is to follow
Anita
this advice to slow the
Anand.
spread of COVID as we await the
A-N-A-N-D.
arrival of safe and effective vaccines.
And
I will
Anita
provide a brief
Anand.
update on
Who's
the
messing around with
logistics that we
first
are
names?
implementing for Canada's
If your last name's Jack, you don't
COVID-19
name your
vaccine
kid
rollout
Jack.
strategy.
Anita Anand. Anand? So as Trudeau comes out and tries to sell his support, I will remind the government that you cannot replace business income from entrepreneurs with a $450 a week welfare payment, you fools. And COVID deaths are not worth more than the death of someone that kills themselves out of hopelessness, out of unemployment, out of frustration and not being able to see their family for 10 months. I had a friend of mine tell me the story about a senior that wrote a suicide note to his family and said, if I can't see you anymore, like I haven't been able to see anyone in the last 10 months, I'm out. And he killed himself. I value that life because that's one you can help save. Everyone's going to get COVID at some point. You cannot control the spread. You can slow it, but lockdowns aren't doing it. Masks aren't doing it. It's going to run its course at some point. All you can do is take care of your immune system. Distance, basic hygiene. I'm masking everyone. We're all masking. Get the play? I'm masking everyone. We're all in this together. We'll be here for you. No, it's such platitudes. It's gross. It's disgusting. And it makes me enraged. Listen to your government. Fuck you. Government doesn't know what's best for me. And then the government's great at ranking losses. They're like, oh, look at all these deaths. You know, what about the suicides? What about the drug abuse? What about the alcoholism? What about the domestic abuse? What about child abuse, for lack of a better term? What about, us being locked down and not even being able to see our families? It's taking its toll. I'm not having it. I'm not lying down for it. If you're going to fuck me, at least let me stand up first. And the smallest businesses, from what I can tell, don't qualify for any assistance. If you have a payroll that's less than $50K a year, there's nothing for you except $450 a week. But if you're in the restaurant industry, guess what you're doing? Nothing. Right now, if I had a restaurant, I wouldn't be taking ID, and I'd be flouting the law, and I'd have an armed security guard at the door. And if you bring a warrant, you get in. If you're an official, a health official, let me see your warrant. Otherwise, fucking beat it. This is my business, my property, and you can't just walk in unless you got an order or a warrant. Fucking beat it. But that's just me. I can talk shit because I don't have a business. Or, excuse me, a restaurant. Trudeau also came out yesterday telling us that we know it works because we did it in the spring. If we did it in the spring and it worked, we wouldn't be fucking doing it again now, Prime Minister Cuck. And you can fly over the border, but you can't drive safely within the safety of your own car. But if you want to fly, oh, sure, go to the airport. Yeah, damn. I'm all on that. This fear monger, whispering fear monger. You know what? Did you know what Trudeau's good at? And I posted some clips up today on the whatever platform you're watching here. I put them up on even LinkedIn. I got some videos up today. I think it was Rachel Notley saying, Alberta, is it Alberta?
That when a vaccine is ready, Canada will be ready.
Alberta, yeah. Alberta's the only province without a mandatory mask mandate. And then she looks at the camera and puts this really sucky face on. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Masks don't work. Hey, dickhead, if your mask wearing was working, then why are we still increasing in cases? Dr. Tran and Haiju and the Prime Minister Cuck, all they do is sow division. That's all. It's us against them, neighbor against neighbor. And why? You can't control the virus. And blaming people that don't follow the rules, again, just causing more fear and hate and division. What the fuck? Oh, if we had have locked down properly the first time, we wouldn't need to do this now. Bullshit. We knew a second wave was coming. We knew this in April, March. The second wave was predicted. Now, a very wise man that I know told me that the second wave was going to be 10 times as destructive as the first. Well, so far, we're seeing it's half as deadly as the first wave was, roughly, in Canada. I'm exhausted. Fucking exhausted from just paying attention. Yeah, the broadcasting, it gets a little much. Had Mike Farquharson yesterday from G3. I thought it was a great conversation. I really enjoyed hanging with Mike. Good guy around town, good business mind. He's been obviously pretty good at adapting. And then Max Bernier was live at 3 p.m. on Sunday. Another solid interview of a guy that's got some good takes. You don't have to agree with them all, but at least he makes some good points. Talking about globalism and masking and COVID and proportional representation. We even talked about hydrofuel a little bit, not much. So yeah, I'm exhausted just from paying attention. The broadcasting, yeah, I mean, you don't think it's exhausting, but try it. You can't control the virus. You can slow down the spread. You can flatten the curve. Make sure the healthcare system isn't overrun. Keep your distance. Wash your hands. And wear a mask if you want, but it's not fucking helping. In fact, if you're infected wearing a mask, I think there's a good chance that you touching that mask is going to make everything around you infected anyway. So let's say you're infected, you're wearing a mask. Every time you touch the mask, everything else you touch after that becomes infected.
Trudeau are with me today.
Who's this fucking chooch?
To mark this important milestone in the fight against COVID-19.
Announced earlier today, as well as my colleague, Minister Anand, the government has signed an initial order with Eli Lilly for up to 26,000 doses of the therapeutic.
Okay, now, again, I am not claiming to be the smartest guy around, but why are we buying doses for a vaccine that hasn't been tried, tested, and approved? Oh, maybe they're preemptive. Maybe it's just like they're buying them beforehand. They're guaranteeing the purchase of them. I don't know. It's exhausting. Support your local lockdown. Do not leave the house. Do not order a panzerotti from Papa Vince. Papa Vincenzo. Just don't go to Thorold to Front Street and see Johnny and get an extra sauce and a well-done panzerotti because they're shit. Because I don't want to fucking wait in line when I go there, all right? So trust me, they're no good for you. They taste like garbage. Their red sauce is horrible. You're not going to like it. So just stay in your home. Don't order pizza from Carson's on Martindale. Is it on Martindale? Oh my goodness. Pie Guys delivered the other day. They were the only place open. After my my interview with Max Bernier, I was amped and I was starving and I didn't have anything immediate. And so I went down the list. Okay, Thai, closed. Okay, Chinese. Did I go to Chinese? First I went to Thai. It was all closed. Then I went to pizza. Where'd I go? Duff's, closed. Oh, Duff's is being taken over by Fat Tony. So, isn't it Fat Tony? Fat Louie. Fat Louie. Tony's was Anthony's restaurant on Queenston Street back in the day. Queenston and Eastchester. That was Tony's. Remember Tony's restaurant? I know he goes by Anthony. Fat Louie's. Fat Louie's was closed. Anyways, I got to Pie Guys and they delivered it, and the driver was actually from their shop, so I could tip the driver and send a tip back to the kitchen. Dude was pretty happy. I was pretty happy to get fed, so I was grateful for the driver and the kitchen. So thank you. I don't mind tipping large. What have I got coming up this week? I guess it doesn't matter much. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I got to do something with my stomach again. I got that leftover panzerotti. Papa Vincenzo.
We are on top of
Peace,
this file. As we
love,
know,
hug
it's
your neighbor.
a
Take off
high
your
priority for
mask. It's
Canadians,
not
and very
working
soon
anyways.